Hello. I have the pleasure of explaining pivotal response training. Basically, it's an evidence-based practice that focuses on pivotal skills, so skills that are more likely to have a cascade effect and improve further skills in the future. Um, it's based on the principles of ABA, and it uses chaining, modeling, prompting, reinforcement, and it can be used to reduce interfering behaviors, maybe disruptive, repetitive, or stereotypical behaviors, and as well to increase social interaction, which is kind of the main thing it's used for, that in language. Um, Basically, PRT is like an ABA intervention, but it's used wherever a child is. It's used in naturalistic environments. I mean, it can be used in unnatural environments if that's a thing, but mostly it's used wherever kids are. So there's research to show its use in early intervention, preschool and elementary school. Middle school, there is some research to show that it's been useful for social communication or for social interaction. Um, and for early intervention, it's social interaction and communication. But for both preschool and elementary, there's been studies showing that it's useful in social interaction, communication, and play skills. So far, no studies have been done on high school students, but if you have a kid that you think it might work with, I mean, there's no reason to think it shouldn't just because they're in high school, because it is an evidence-based practice. Just, there's no evidence base for high schoolers yet. The three resources or articles that I looked at were for early intervention, Neft, Kogel, Singer, and Gerber, 2010. That one focused on teaching parents how to implement pivotal response training in the home and other environments where they are with their kids. Um, that was pretty cool because even though it was like, I don't know, um, an older study, well, I guess 2010, not that old, but it was focusing on using technology to teach parents how to use PRT and then checking in with them. And it showed that they were able to learn from the DVDs and they were able to successfully carry it out. And there were um, pretty good outcomes compared to the control group. I thought that was pretty cool since we always talk about how parents need to be more like we need to be consulting with parents more for anything we're doing with kids, especially at a young age. And then for preschool, that one focused more on whether pivotal response training works with a therapist or teacher and a preschooler. Um, and they found that it worked better than just language training to increase play skills. That's what they were specifically looking at it was symbolic play in the preschool study by Stommer, 1995. Um, but the one thing they did find is that generalization wasn't so great because, well, they just did it in one setting with like a couple adults, and it was obviously going to be hard to generalize those skills. However, the elementary study, Pearson Scribman, 1997, I think that was my favorite because it talked about how um, using PRT with other students, like the students were trained in it too, peers, helped the kids with autism like have generalization most first and foremost of the skills that they were working on. um so play skills and some, I mean, the whole goal I think was also to look at friendships between kids on the spectrum and peers and see if how training peers and PR pivotal response training would, improve role modeling, feedback, and some other really cool skills. All right, let's see. Pivotal behaviors can include responding to multiple cues, looking at phases, motivation, repeating, really anything that will lead to more skills in the future. Looking at faces, for one, that can lead to more skills and development in language and also social behavior, and relationship building. Whereas repeating, that can lead to a lot more language stuff and connection as well, social interaction. Motivation is one that I struggled with. Like, how are you going to teach that? But there's some pretty cool resources on how to pair behaviors with um, things that are, at first not internally motivating, but then moving towards that, which will really help people out in the long run. Parts of pivotal response training, you need to present clear opportunities. It's really based on the child's choice because that's really motivating. It's important to give immediate consequences that are contingent on the behavior. So it's not just random consequences. That's a different thing, I'm sure, but not this. Natural reinforcers are best, especially since this is more of a naturalistic intervention. So as natural as the reinforcers can be, and really it's good if they have to do with whatever the behavior is. So like if it's requesting more, for example, then more of whatever they're requesting instead of like randomly saying good job, and it has to fit. Reinforce good faith attempts. So that was kind of confusing to me at first, but if it's pretty simple actually. It's if the kid is trying to say milk, for example, and they say meh, and that's more than they've done before, or as much as, or it's a good try, you reinforce that too. And I think that's where the shaping comes in. So like maybe in the future you wouldn't reinforce meh, and you would more be reinforcing milk, or maybe it's easier with a different word, but or maybe it's a hand sign that's like the closer it gets, the more you enforce it or reinforce it. Um, let's see. So you have to first create an opportunity, then you have to pause, and that's really important because if you don't wait, then well, I mean, you're not going to know what the kid can do and what they can't without prompts. So you will probably need to provide prompts sometimes, and that's cool. And you prompt them again if they aren't able to do the behavior, and you move up the scale of prompts, and then you are directly reinforcing with contingent reinforcers, and then there it is again, the reward attempts. So good faith effort. And then turn take when appropriate. If it's a skill that you can do and then they can do, that will facilitate interaction, build turn taking skills, and also provide a good model. Another thing to keep in mind is that it's not just one task that you're having them do at one time. It's going to be a 50-50 mix of easier and more difficult tests, which will, of course, depend on the student in question, how much percentage is easy and difficult, and how many tasks there are. But it's important to follow their lead, give choices, and use preferred materials, since those do help a lot with motivation. So there's some parts you can do to think about which activities you're going to be using. Um, Thinking about giving choices and being able to switch between activities, modeling, and acknowledging that their interests may change and following their lead. So it's not like we're going to sit at this table and practice saying more milk for 5 minutes, because that's just not following the child's lead. But you are making sure to give as many opportunities as you can, while still giving them the 5 to 10 seconds to respond, and not frustrating them too much, and that's where mixture of easy and difficult tasks come in. So my case study, I will read it out loud for those who don't want to read it on the screen. Johanna is a 2-year-old with ASD who uses crying and reaching to communicate, in addition to the words wawa, water, and dada, dad. She really likes moving her body by spinning, jumping, swinging, and playing flying games with her dad, Tony. She also likes puzzles and videos on YouTube. Joanna is starting early intervention visits, and her dad and interventionist are talking about about what to work on first. Tony knows Johanna likes flying games because she laughs and smiles, although she doesn't share her enjoyment with him by looking at his face. One of his goals is to feel closer to her, and so he and the early interventionist agreed to start by using pivotal response training to teach JoJo to look at her dad's face when she wants more flying. She has done this on occasion, and when it has happened, Tony described it as the best feeling in the world, like we're really connecting 100%. Teaching Johanna to look at faces is teaching her a pivotal response because looking at faces will help her learn language, participate more fully in social interactions, and build relationships. So, first, the interventionist and Tony are going to need to identify an easy and a difficult task. One more easy task for her might be smiling. That's something she can already do. And the harder task might be looking at his face. So having both of those things and reinforcing for both of them will help her stay motivated. And they've already selected the material, which is, him lifting her up and flying, which is play-based and individually preferred. And then their motivational strategy is continuing the game, which is great because that's a very naturalistic reward. One thing they could do to arrange the environment is, make sure there's not something she's going to hit her head on. Go outside, maybe, somewhere she enjoys playing this game with him. Determine prompts. They could talk about, well, are they just going to stop the movement and hope that she says that she looks at him or that she laughs? Or will they prompt then, if she doesn't do the behavior, will they say more flying? That will be something that, they have to figure out so that they can give prompts that are staying the same throughout. And, well, obtain training and or supervision. It is important to get trained in this to do it well, I guess. However, they're going to be working on it together, the interventionist and Tony, and supposedly the interventionist is trained in this. So they're going to be playing, and then he's going to stop lifting her up in the air. That'll get her attention, and then just waiting for that 5 to 10 seconds, and then maybe prompting if necessary. And maybe switching to a different activity to give a different choice. Maybe there's other, she likes swinging too, so that's another choice. But it is going to be important for her to pause for 5 to 10 seconds and to give her that opportunity to respond. And then the natural reinforcement will be continuing with the game that she likes. And attempts, if she kind of glances at him, starting out, that's shaping the behavior, so he would reinforce that. And turn taking, well, I don't know exactly how that would be appropriate, but it doesn't have to happen. It's just a thing to think about. And then monitoring. He is going to think about how many times she's smiling and or looking at him, and they're going to make a plan for collecting that data. Those are my references for the articles, and the images I got from the Affirm module. The AIM one is good too, so I used some of that information, but the visuals just were not as good. And then if you do have questions about pivotal response training, feel free to email me and I'll let you know. All right, thank you.